cannot predict the future perfectly. You may be ill. Someone in your family may have a car wreck and you're not able to work and get the rest of the money together. Then you've gotten caught in this trap of payments. You cannot predict the future. I'm not negative. I'm just 100% sure you don't know what's coming. So when you have the money, then you buy the stuff. If you don't have the money, don't buy the stuff.
Americans tend to spend more money than they have for a few reasons. Number one is that they're trying to maintain a lifestyle that they really can't afford. They see people all around them with new cars and other expensive items, and they think they might need to have those things too, even if they don't have the cash. So they end up using a credit card or a loan to pay for things that they can't afford. The next reason that they do it is to try to self-gratify. They want to feel good about themselves, so they end up using credit cards to buy things. You have to tell yourself no. You're going to save up for it, and you're going to pay cash for it. When you use debt to buy things, it brings guilt as well as a payment. So save up and pay cash, because you don't want to feel bad. You don't want to feel guilty about buying that item. If you save up for it and buy it, you're going to feel good about it. If you want to win with money and build wealth, you've got to live on less than you make. New things that come wrapped up in debt payments will not bring you happiness.
Of course, the straight-up marketing stuff like television, radio, the internet, other media. And of course, that's where those of us in the business, I'm in the radio business, we use repetition. Well, Dave, this stuff doesn't work on me. I'm way too smart. I'm sophisticated. I know what they're doing. It doesn't have any effect on me. All right, let's get a little help here then. Help me with this. Bye-bye, Miss American. Bye. Drove my Chevy to the levee. But the levee was dry. Them good old boys were drinking whiskey and right. Shame on you. Don McLean, Miss American Pie, 1972.
We are constantly bombarded by marketing ads through TV, radio, the internet, and billboards. We hear slogans and jingles, and before long, we're hooked. That's because repetition is a powerful thing. Literally, all a company has to do is make sure their line is repeated over and over again. That way, when we need or want a particular item, we think of their brand. Don't believe me? See if you recognize any of these. Taste the rainbow. Think outside the bun. It melts in your mouth, not in your hand. Just do it. You probably know all of those. That's because advertising and repetition is extremely effective.
Here's the oldest, and everybody can do it. Still being used today, originated in 1954. Melts in your mouth. Not in your hand. And who is it? Yes. Repetition doesn't work, does it? Marketing has no effect, does it? Everyone in here can sing that like it's a song. Absolutely incredible. Apparently those ad dollars are paying off. I saw a study the other day that said the average household now has more televisions than people. Kind of a scary thought if you think through the implications of this. Somewhere there are some dogs and cats being entertained. When it comes to marketing, they also use product positioning. Now, product positioning is a big deal. There's all kinds of aspects to this. One is brand recognition. Brand recognition is where they position a product in your mind as associated with a certain value. For instance, years ago, the first time that the generic products started hitting the market, there was a big ketchup war because your local grocery store would slap a generic brand on a ketchup bottle and put it on the shelf cheaper than Hunt's or Heinz. And I remember there was a commercial, some of you remember it 15, 20 years ago, where they would show the Hunt's or the Heinz ketchup, and it was thick and rich. And the generic ketchup was thin and runny and made in the same factory. Mercedes has done such a good job as positioning themselves in the consumer's mind as holding its value. Mercedes hold their value. You ought to look at the numbers if you think that's true. As a matter of fact, an interesting thing happened that didn't work in marketing was Cadillac back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, found that Cadillacs of a $50,000 level of Cadillac was holding its value statistically better than a corresponding Mercedes. When Cadillac studied this, knew it was true, but in the consumer's mind, a Cadillac went down and a Mercedes was just steady. Mercedes had planted that as a brand position in our minds. Cadillac spent $100 million buying advertisements trying to teach the consumer that it wasn't true, and the ad campaign was a flop. Mercedes was so entrenched in the consumer psyche with the thing that holds its value, they'd done such a good job that everyone didn't believe the Cadillac ads. And they were true. At that period of time, I don't know what it is today, but at that period of time, Cadillac did hold its thing. We've got a new one going on. If you use Macs instead of using a PC, you're cool. PC people like me that don't use Macs can't stand the things. Don't want an Apple on my stuff. I'm a nerd. I'm undernourished. I don't know what's going on. My intellect hasn't kept up. But you people with spike hair, boy, you're cool. You're cool. You got it all together because you use an Apple. They've done a great job with that one. That is a fabulous marketing campaign. The iPod marketing campaign has been fabulous with those guys. They've associated their entire brand with coolness. Their entire brand is about you are cool if you're using their stuff. Young people, the younger the demographic, the more likely you are to go that direction. The older you are, the less you care about being cool. It's very interesting stuff. This stuff works. They spend a lot of money on it. Bottled water. I got a friend of mine that's very wealthy. He says, he thinks that, you know, how some people call themselves a wine snob. He says he's a water snob. He spends money for this expensive water, and he can tell the difference. No, he can't. I was getting ready to be on 2020 not long ago with John Stossel, and so to get ready to go meet John Stossel and hang out with him, I read a couple of his books. And it was really interesting. I wrote down the stuff out of one of the chapters because he's got that stuff, you know, he does where he studies consumer myths, right? And he did the bottled water myth. He got all the expensive waters out, and he got New York tap water. New York City tap water out. He took it all to a microbiologist. The microbiologist went through every one of them. He said there wasn't spit difference in them. They were exactly the same. Maybe a little more fluoride in the tap water. That was it, which would be good for your teeth anyway. He says basically the same. And then they did blind taste test, and the most expensive water came in the worst. New York tap water came in third consistently. New York City tap water. And the cheap generic water? What are we saying? The cheaper generic water kept winning the taste test. My wife and I not long ago were in Oslo, Norway, and we really were cracking up. The guide took us into this store, and they had this bottled water in there. Of course, Oslo, Norway is up near the Arctic Circle, right? And so they've got this bottled water from glaciers. It's glacier water. Ooh. It says this water is 6 million years old. Turn it around, and on the back it said, used by September 30th. Is it any wonder that Evian spelled backwards is naive?